there's 3 stories you're going to be able to tell. How many stories? 3. Come on, guys. How many stories? 3. So write it down. We have a manual here that you'll hand out. The first story is your personal story, okay? Your personal story. Now, your personal story, there's a big confusion because a lot of people say, Roberto, I don't have a story, or my story is not important. Or the people ask me, Roberto, why, if a presentation is not about me, it's about them, why should I talk about my story? Right? It's a good question. You're not telling your story for your ego, you're telling your story for them. Does that make sense? You're telling your story to create a context for them. It's never about you, it's always about who? About the audience. Right? When I work with people, the number 1 communication asset, I believe, is their personal story. That is your number 1 communication asset. As far as, just talk about communication strategy, right? Just pure communication strategy. As far as technique, your personal story is an asset. And personally, I recommend to tell your story everywhere, all the time. All right? And I'm going to give you reasons why. Number 1, when you tell a story, okay, stories create, please write this term down, identification. Identification. And identification is the process when you tell a story, your audience of one of many identify himself or herself with the character of a story. When you create identification, can you say identification? I cannot hear you guys. Can you say identification? The first thing that happens, like, oh, it's just like me. It's just like my wife. It's just like my husband. It's just like my kid. When you create this identification, 2 things happen. Number 1, sales resistance goes down. Right? Why? Because people can counter-argue facts. People can counter-argue statistics. How are you going to counter-argue your own stories? How are you going to counter-argue the story that I just shared? You can. Right? Did Jesus told the stories? Yes or no? A little or a lot? A lot, right? That's how he communicated. The second benefit, right? Because you have less resistance, you have more connection, and storytelling allows you to create a future emotional experience. So when you tell a story with power and emotion and conviction, the audience, in their minds, they are feeling the emotion. They experience the emotion, but they put themselves in a place, could happen to me if I do, could happen if I don't do. So that's why it's an elegant way to influence.